any group that worships and teaches the view of exclusive heterosexuality and anything else is wrong. You will find rampant sexism, misogyny, racism, queerphobia, places that teach heterosexual traditional marriage, family values is a thinly cloaked lie. It's covering racism, white supremacy, basically the largest majority religious groups and institutions that support traditional values, traditional marriage, family. Look closely at who they support. These people support Donald Trump, who is an avid racist, sexist. These groups support the worst people imaginable. And let me repeat again, there is nothing wrong with being heterosexual. It is the majority orientation on this planet. But that doesn't make it primary, the best, the only, or anything sacred. It just means the odds of somebody abusing, being abused, or being trapped in an abusive dynamic is the highest in places that exclusively teach biblical marriage, family values, purity, low body count. This is where it is. And places that believe in the traditional marriage rules are more likely to get abstinence-only education in schools, which means that all the STIs are ridiculously high. Places like Illinois, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alaska, Florida, they have the highest STIs. Luckily, most of them are easily curable. But realizing years later, I lived in a state that had the highest gonorrhea statistics every year. It may be a pretty view, but when you know certain things, it definitely changes your opinion. Until churches stop teaching that one orientation is blessed, good, and is the only right way to live, we'll never be able to get over white supremacy, racism, queerphobia, and misogyny. Because when you believe that your orientation should be the only legitimate one, the only one that should have equal rights to gain privilege, you're creating an us versus them. You're creating an environment where hate crimes will skyrocket, where domestic violence will thrive. And if you're in a biblical marriage, you have a much lower chance of escaping due to these traditional beliefs. And I've met a lot of battered Christian wives. I've met a lot of Christian wives who've been infected with STIs due to church teachings about the wrong kind of guy they teach is the right kind of guy to marry. Biblical marriage is a facade. It's not real. It's an elitist plot to control everybody. Because Christians usually only care about two things: people's genitals and people's access to health care and a quality life. You always wonder why Christians who protest, they always go after women's rights and where people stick their genitals. It's because high control religion has to control and mandate to control privilege. If you can make someone else the fall guy, the scapegoat, you have privilege. And as long as we view heterosexuality as anything but a majority orientation or just a plain, simple orientation. We're fanning the flames of hate crimes, human rights violations. Anyone who supports and is involved in supporting this kind of biblical marriage is responsible for racism, homophobia, women dying due to not having access to abortion. If you're part of a group that causes the deaths of women due to your money going for legislation and lobbying, you are responsible for these bad things happening. Guilt by association and membership is a thing. You vote people into office that cause the deaths, usually of minorities, due to no abortion. Taking away people's Medicare will cause death and low quality life. You support these kind of people. You are what I call borderline racist, homophobic, elitist, white supremacist, and sexist. Even if you're a nice person, if you're a member, you support or you donate to these places. That makes you guilty by association. Anyone who supports a dictator supports violence, supports abusive dynamics and elitist philosophies, is responsible for how it affects other people. Everyone who voted for Trump is guilty of what Trump does. Even if you didn't mean any harm, you still voted for Trump. Whatever happens with Trump, you are responsible for. It's the same thing. If you're a member of the Southern Baptist Church or Christian fundamentalism, you are responsible in your own way for perpetuating bias, white supremacy, and violence. You cannot be a member of this group without condoning what they're doing. And anyone with any sense at all wouldn't want to be a part of these groups when you know what they do. And if you're still there and you know, you're part of the problem. And I used to be part of the problem. I used to be in these churches. I didn't know any better. The difference is I chose to educate myself. I chose to walk away. I choose to teach and share what I have gone through. So maybe one person doesn't have to suffer alone. Or maybe they don't even know they're suffering. A lot of abused survivors don't have a clue they've been abused because they've been raised in a totalitarian environment known as high control religion. I've met a lot of Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Methodists, Baptists, Roman Catholics. They didn't know about bodily autonomy, consent, power dynamics, power imbalances, misconduct. They didn't know. Because these environments are elitists. They're dressed up as white supremacists in church garments. And I read something recently. Fascism, anarchy, and persecution will come wrapped up as a Bible-believing Christian or as a politician who supports biblical marriage, heterosexuality, and elitism. Evil takes root by giving the appearance of being good. And hopefully someday, maybe before I'm dead, in 60 years, we'll have come a long, long way where heterosexuality isn't the default system, where people don't have to come out because we don't worship marriage and expect everybody to be heterosexual. Nobody is persecuted for not being in the majority. and that the majority of people in the U.S. don't allow white privileged, heterosexual privileged people to make other people feel unprivileged. Sometimes I wish the U.S. was like certain countries like Sweden and Norway, where 70% of the people that live there is atheist. They're progressive, they're modern, because they don't believe in superstitions. And if you read the Bible, biblical marriage is polygamy. Nowhere in the Bible does it say you can't have more than one wife. But when you look at the people who had multiple wives, how bad their lives were due to having so many children and wives, and it just creates problems. You don't have to be married. There's nothing wrong with being married. There's nothing wrong with being heterosexual or bi or trans. The issue is, are you in a group of people that teach that there is only one right way to do something? That's when it becomes wrong. When everyone expects somebody to be something, and they actually have to loudly announce that they're not, that's when you have a problem. There shouldn't be a status quo. There should be, when you're introduced to somebody, you should never assume they're just heterosexual. I always assume. I have no clue. I don't judge people by how they dress or how they walk. I can see if somebody is very flamboyant, they might be gay, but I never say they are, and I ask. We need to stop teaching people heterosexuality is the only legitimate way to live. It's just one way. We need to talk. We will never be a great country until we talk as positively about bisexuality or transsexuality or any